Hayley Westenra, from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia, en.wikipedia.org. Hayley Dee Westenra, born April 10, 1987, is a New Zealand soprano who has released 2 widely distributed albums. Her first album, Pure, reached #1 on the UK classical charts and has sold over 2 million copies worldwide. Hayley is the fastest-selling debut classical artist to date. In addition to her success at selling albums, she became an international star at the age of 16 when the first of her international albums were released. As a consequence of her international success, she has performed for dignitaries of the modern Western world. She is also a philanthropist and donates much of her time and money to charities, such as UNICEF. Section: Biography. Early life. Westenra was born in Christchurch, New Zealand, the daughter of Jill and Gerald Westenra, with 2 siblings, Sophie and Isaac. She comes from a musically inclined family. Her grandmother was a singer, and her grandfather was a pianist and played the piano accordion. Her musical career began at the age of 6 when she was cast in a role of the little star in her school's Christmas play with a singing part. After the show, a teacher who had watched her performance approached her parents and informed them that their daughter had perfect pitch. The teacher encouraged Westenra to pick up a musical instrument to improve her abilities, and she began to take violin lessons. Along with the violin, she took up the piano and the recorder, and learned to read music by the age of 7. She began voice lessons and discovered a passion for musical theater. By age 11, she had performed more than 40 times on stage. Out of these performances, she remembers not always getting the parts she wanted. Quote, "I got boy parts quite often. In ballet there was not enough boys, so they ended up choosing half and half. I got chosen to wear the grey suit and the wig, and not the pretty dresses. In A Christmas Carol, I was Tiny Tim, so I got to be quite a sick boy. There was severe lack of singing boys, and at the time it was quite disappointing." At the age of 12, Westenra entered a professional recording studio to record Walking in the Air, a demo album done for friends and family. Only about 1,000 copies were made. Sometime later, after finishing her album, both Hayley and her sister Sophie bussed in the Christchurch streets. The pair grew a large crowd, and one woman asked the girls if they had ever recorded anything. This woman turned out to be a journalist with CTV and asked Hayley to appear on air. A concert promotion company watched the show and signed her to the Universal New Zealand label. The concert promoter who saw this and was responsible for this deal was Grey Barrett. Without even meeting her in person, she was offered a deal on the Universal New Zealand label. On this label, Westenra released a self-titled album of show tunes and light classical songs, as well as My Gift to You, a CD of Christmas music. As a result of her success of selling albums in New Zealand, she was offered and later received lessons from Dame Malvina Major. International success. Although her albums were quite successful in New Zealand, Westenra was unknown worldwide until she landed a contract with the Decca Music Group and recorded Pure, a CD of classical light pop and traditional Māori songs. Decca's UK president was also impressed with her voice, and when they signed her to the label, he said that he was, quote, "captivated by the beauty and expressiveness of her voice," end quote. Pure enjoyed record-topping success. It became the fastest-selling debut album in the history of the UK classical charts. Pure sold 19,068 copies in the first week alone, flew to #1 on the UK classical charts, and entered the UK pop chart at #8. To date, over 2 million copies of Pure have been sold. In New Zealand, Pure has been certified 10x Platinum, making her the best-selling artist regardless of genre in the country's history. This album ensured that Decca, her recording label, would take her seriously. When the facts are presented about her fame today, some of her fame can be directly attributed to the way in which Decca promoted her. Although the traditional audience of classical crossover music is that of adult women, they also promoted her to children and teenagers. Westenra recorded the end title song for Disney's movie Milan 2. They also featured her on the National Radio Disney Music Education Tour for middle school students. David Horn, the producer of her live TV special, which aired on PBS's Great Performances, said this about her, quote, "Her singing is so gorgeous it is reminiscent of the great boy soprano sound of Anglican church choirs," end quote. This special was entitled Hayley Westenra Live from New Zealand. Decca also promoted her in other ways as well. In the US, they promoted her by attempting to gain attention from the TV and film industries. She took her first acting role in episode 46, Charade, as a singer in the lair on the TV show American Dreams, NBC, where she played the guitar and sang Who Painted the Moon Black. While she was being promoted in LA, Mark Johnson, senior VP/GM for the Universal Classics Group, said that, quote, "When she was out there, people were giving her scripts to read, and she had a few rather impromptu auditions. So some film and TV roles are currently in the works," end quote. In November of 2004, Westenra performed a special concert for Her Majesty the Queen, Prime Minister Tony Blair, Prince Charles, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, and President George W. Bush. In 2005, she was featured in the song Bridal Ballad that was recorded for the movie The Merchant of Venice. More recently, she was featured on the 13th track of the soundtrack to the motion picture The New World. The title of the song which she is featured on is entitled Listen to the Wind. After releasing Pure, Westenra and her family moved to London, England. She continues to live in London, even though her family subsequently returned home to Christchurch. Although she spent most of 2006 touring, she did her best to visit them when she could. Westenra was a 2004 Vodafone New Zealand Music Award winner of Highest Selling New Zealand Album, an International Achievement Award. Although few artists receive any praise from their Prime Minister, Miss Westenra is one of the few who have. On 20 February, the Prime Minister Helen Clark awarded her for being the first New Zealand artist to receive the tenfold platinum status in the New Zealand market, where she held the #1 position for 18 weeks. She has won 2 Japanese Grammys for her work, Song of the Year for Amazing Grace and Album of the Year for Pure. Also in 2004, she began her world tour of New Zealand, Australia and Japan and the UK. At the Sydney Opera House, she received a rare standing ovation. She concluded 2004 with a successful Christmas tour of the East Coast of the US as a guest soloist with the Boston Pops Orchestra. In 2005, she released a new album called Odyssey, titled for her journey to musical success. A mix of classical, pop, Celtic, and New Age, she co-wrote and arranged some of the tracks on the album, which was released in the US on October 18. A more recent version of Odyssey was released in the United Kingdom on April 10, 2006. It has several recordings not on the original album, and in 2005 she made an appearance on Kurt Browning's God Escape, which she did on NBC on December 18, where she performed with Andrea Bocelli. She spent the first half of 2006 performing as a supporting act for the pop opera quartet Il Divo on a worldwide tour, though in March she performed several solo concerts in the US as well. That tour officially ended in June, but was then extended by 6 dates. She then performed several concerts in the UK and Germany through the end of the summer. In August 2006, she joined Celtic Woman and is featured on their second major DVD/CD album, Celtic Woman: A New Journey. In addition to her Dutch surname, her lineage is traced back to the Mahon County in Ireland prior to her family's emigration to New Zealand. She will be touring with the group in the US in 2007, although specific details have yet to be released. On 5 September 2006, Ms. Westenra was named one of the 10 outstanding young people in the world by the Junior Chamber International. Later, in 13 November of the same year, she participated in the dedication of the New Zealand War Memorial in London. Although she's seen great success, many people note that Ms. Westenra does not display any diva tendencies, as pointed out by Navani de Sora. According to de Sora, this can possibly be attributed to the fact that her family has come along for many of her trips that she has been on so far. She has also confirmed this herself by one time saying, quote, "They keep an eye out on me," end quote, where she was referring to her parents. Section, Philanthropy and Charity. Westenra is the youngest UNICEF Ambassador to date. In 2005, Westenra visited Ghana to publicize her latest project and actively help funding for UNICEF. This involved raising money to purchase bicycles for young girls, allowing them to get to school from outlying surrounding areas. She has also been the ambassador for Save the Children in Hong Kong. More recently, she took part in a breast cancer awareness campaign in New Zealand. One of the other charities which she helps is the Women's Environmental Network. The last major charity which she helps is the Nordock Robbins Center for Music Therapy. All the children who receive her help at the Center for Music Therapy are disabled. The article then goes on to list her discography and 28 different resources used in the production of this article. It additionally lists a book for further reading and finally several external links. Both the article and this audio file are licensed under the GNU Free Document License.